Ladies and gentlemen, the inaugural lecture of馮景禧Memorial Professorship in Finance by Professor Tao Xu will now commence. Please rise for the official procession. Please be seated. Please welcome Professor Rocky Tuan, the Vice Chancellor and President of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, to deliver a vote of thanks to Mr. Tony Feng and his family. Professor Tuan, please.
Mr. Feng, Professor Zhou, Professor Xu, colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. First of all, a very warm welcome to all of you to the inaugural lecture for the馮景禧Memorial Professorship in Finance by Professor舒濤. Today, we are deeply honored to have Mr. Tony Feng among us, a dear friend and a staunch supporter of the CUHK community. On behalf of the university, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to Mr. Feng and his family, whose generosity and philanthropic spirit has once again enabled us to make advances in education and research for the betterment of society. The Feng family's steadfast commitment and friendship towards CUHK over the years have been truly invaluable. Their generous donations have significantly enhanced our campus facilities, academic programs, and innovative research initiatives, opening up numerous opportunities for the university to pursue excellence in education, research, and innovation with purpose and responsibility. Today, we are grateful to witness Mr. Tony Feng's goodwill extending to CUHK's Faculty of Business Administration through a generous donation in support of the education and research endeavors of the Department of Finance by establishing an endowed professorship in finance in memory of his late father, Mr.馮景禧. Professor舒濤, our newly installed馮景禧Memorial Professor of Finance, currently serves as the chairman of the Department of Finance. He is a passionate scholar, a visionary academic leader, an eminent researcher, and a prolific writer who has made significant contributions to education and research innovations in the field of finance. The honor bestowed upon him today is not only well-deserved, but also is a testament to his academic expertise and achievements in leading research in empirical asset pricing, mergers and acquisitions, behavioral finance, and corporate finance. His inaugural lecture today is entitled Frictions and Biases in the Financial Markets. I am personally very much looking forward to hearing Professor Xu's insights on this topic. I'm particularly interested in learning which come first, frictions or biases, or whether it's more like a chicken and an egg relationship. Well, going back to the purpose of today's event, I am confident that this prestigious professorship,馮景禧Memorial Professorship, will further propel Professor Xu on his path of scholarship and knowledge generation and dissemination for the greater good. Please join me in extending our warmest wishes and congratulations to Professor Xu and our sincere gratitude to Mr. Tony Feng and his family once again for their long-standing commitment to the development of CUHK. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a most enjoyable and fruitful afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Tuan. I now invite Professor Tuan, accompanied by Professor Lin Zhou, Dean of Business Administration, and Professor Tao Xu, to present a certificate of appreciation to Mr. Tony Fung. Thank you. Please be seated. Professor Lin Zhou, Dean of Business Administration, would like to introduce Professor Tao Xu. Professor Zhou, please.
Dear Mr. Tony Fung, VC Professor Tun, and PVC Professor Chan, and distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my great pleasure to introduce Professor舒濤as our inaugural lecturer for today's special occasion. Professor舒濤joined CUHK in August last year and was appointed chairman of the Department of Finance in November. Prior to CUHK, Professor舒濤held the position of Presidential Chair Professor of Finance at CUHK Shenzhen, where he served also in various capacities, including the Deputy Director of the Shenzhen Financial Institute and the Associate Vice President of the university. After Professor Xu obtained his PhD in finance from the University of Texas, Austin, he embarked on an academic journey, first at the Terry College of Business, University of Georgia, becoming an assistant professor in 2007, then tenured in 2013, and then appointed as the McFadden Professor of Financial Management in 2018. During his time in the US, he was also a visitor scholar at the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta from 2014 to 2019. As a prolific researcher, Professor Xu has a wealth of expertise spanning from empirical asset pricing, mergers, acquisitions, behavioral finance, and corporate finance. His scholarly work has been widely published in top-tier academic journals in finance and business, such as the Journal of Finance, Journal of Financial Economics, Review of Financial Studies, Management Science, and the Accounting Review. Throughout his career, Professor舒濤research and teaching excellence have been recognized with numerous awards and accolades, and his leadership quality has also been in full display since he stepped on 2 CUHK campuses. Today's event serves as a testament to his exceptional achievement and invaluable contributions. And I'm confident that Professor舒濤will continue his endeavors in advancing finance research, nurturing business leaders, and building a world-class educational institution here at CUHK and for a very long time. Before I conclude, I would also like to take this opportunity to express our deepest gratitude to our generous donor, Mr. Tony Fung, as well as his family, for their unwavering support of CUHK Business School and over more than a half century. I'm most delighted that Tony actually can join us today to celebrate the initiation of Professor舒濤as馮景禧Memorial Professor of Finance. Now, let's give a big round of applause to welcome Professor舒濤to the stage to deliver his speech.
Mr. Tony Feng, Professor Rocky Tuan, Professor Anthony Chen, Professor Ling Zhou, distinguished guests, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is with profound gratitude and a sense of deep responsibility that I stand before you today as the inaugural holder of the馮景禧Memorial Professor in Finance. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the generous benefaction of the Feng family, whose visionary support has made this professorship possible. Their commitment to academic excellence and their belief in the transformative power of education resonates deeply with the echoes of CUHK. Thank you. So in today's lecture, to answer Professor Tuan's question, I'll first talk about friction, and then I'll talk about biases in the financial market. And then I'll share some important moments of my life. Before I proceed, let me thank my family, my parents, and also my family member here, Ashley, my wife, and Grace and Tony. Your sacrifices and also your support have shaped the journey that bring us here. Okay, thank you. So let me first share with you some thoughts about finance in general. Okay, so it starts with my academic career. I started my academic career in 2007 as a young finance professor at the University of Georgia. So you can see the photo of me. I gained a lot of weight since then. So those are the buildings of the business school of University of Georgia, and my office is on the 4th floor of the building in the back. Okay, and this is a very interesting timing because very soon the global financial crisis happened. And we all know that this financial crisis is different from the previous one because it sort of started as a financial crisis. Because investment banks invented all kind of complicated financial derivatives and like CDOs, mortgage-backed securities, which caused a housing bubble and financial crisis, which then lead to an economic crisis. Okay, so of course, people at that time really hated, finance or like this, arrest the bankers. Okay, so I just joined the university and suddenly I saw a lot of finance students transferred to other majors. Okay, and also the applications for finance majors plummeted, and I was shocked. And luckily, after 2 years, everything is back to normal. Okay. So somehow there's this illusion that finance is just about making money. Okay, it's just about a group of greedy people trying to make more money, which is completely false. Okay, so let me share with you my thoughts. Okay, I think finance is about allocation of resources. Okay, in the economy. So this is a very important question for a country. For example, when we look at the financial market, for example, there are lots of financial market, stock market, bond market, foreign exchange market. Take a stock market as an example, right? We have a household who have extra funding. We have companies that need funding. So financial market connect these two parties. Households can now buy stocks, invest their funding into the company as equity funding, and then companies use this funding for production, to grow their business, to grow the economy, and then pay back dividends to household. And also the asset value appreciated, household wealth also appreciates, okay? So as you can see, this entire process is about resource allocation. Okay, so the question is, how do we optimally allocate resources? Okay, what is the necessary condition or sufficient condition for optimal asset allocation? How do we build an efficient financial market? So in an ideal world, optimal financial market with rational economic agents, we see 3 elements. The first one is financial market efficiency, okay, which is asset prices accurately reflect underlying fundamental values. And then investors make optimal decisions or rational decisions, use all the information to maximize their returns relative to risk levels. And then corporate managers adopt optimal corporate policy to maximize firm value or shareholder value. Okay. In today's world, we also consider ESG, okay, which is not just value creation, but also social welfare. Okay. So this is an ideal world. But unfortunately, the real world is very different from the ideal world. We have seen a lot of violations or discrepancies. For example, we see many stock market bubbles. Okay, so huge stock price increase and then bubble burst and market crash. We also see excessive trading. For example, the individual US investors on average have an annual turnover of 75%. Okay, what does it mean? Which means if you invest $10,000 in stocks, you trade 7,500 annually. Okay, this is a very high number that cannot be justified by irrational models. Okay, but think about the Chinese individual investors. Okay, what would this number be like? Okay, so let me show you the number, which is 940%. Okay, so an average Chinese individual investor, when they invest 10,000 RMB into a stock market, they trade on average 94,000 RMB every year. Okay, which is they almost turn over the portfolio like once every month. Okay, so why? Okay, another example is I quote the China Business Network. This is a news article from July 2023. Basically, it says in China, 60% of the domestic acquisitions result in a loss. Okay, so they do not create value but destroy value for acquirers, and 80% for cross-border acquisitions. Okay, so I teach mergers and acquisitions to our students, and I detail the reasons behind this. So because of time constraint, we cannot go into in depth in this question, but I think the question is exactly what happened, what caused this discrepancies. Okay, so part of my research delves into first market friction. So today I'll talk about one example, which is information asymmetry, and second is the biases, okay, of economic agents. So let's first look at information asymmetry. Okay, so information transparency is a necessary condition for an efficient market, right? If we don't even know about a company, how can we correctly price the financial assets, such as the stock or bonds? Okay, but unfortunately, in the real world, there can be very severe information asymmetry in the financial market. Could be between firms and investors, and between different groups of investors. Okay, so one important question is, for example, for Chinese stock market, how good is information transparency, or how bad is information asymmetry? Okay, so let me, before I show you some results, let me first talk about this normal distribution. Okay, this is sort of a background knowledge. For example, my son Tony, right? If I survey the height of all the boys in his cohort, okay, in his high school, he's 11th grade now. So you would find a distribution like this, right? The middle point is the mean or the average, which is roughly like 175 centimeter, which is about his height, okay? And then to the right, we have fewer and fewer people that is much taller than 175. And we also have fewer and fewer people that is much shorter than 175, right? So this is the sort of a frequency, okay, distribution. What if we look at the earnings of Chinese publicly listed companies? If we look at 2005 to 2011, this is from one of my management science publications in 2022. Okay, if you look at the distribution, again, the middle point is 0, right? These firms break even, okay? And then the more you are to the right, the more profitable you are, And then these are companies with big losses, okay? And then this is the frequency, like 16%, 14% within each interval, okay? So if you look at this figure, this looks a little different than the previous figure, normal distribution, even though we expect a normal distribution because of law of large numbers, right? So if I compare these two distributions, it's even more evident. See exactly what happened? There seems to be missing piece over here to the left of 0, okay? So this is we call it earnings discontinuity, okay? So exactly what happened? There are two possibilities, right? First is maybe Chinese earnings also has its own characteristic, okay? Maybe it doesn't follow a normal distribution, okay? The second reason, which is I think is probably more likely, is that some companies manipulate their earnings. So there should be here, okay, to the left of 0, but they move themselves through earnings manipulation to the right-hand side of the distribution, okay? So how big is this discontinuity? Does this also exist in the, for example, US and other developed market? The answer is yes, okay. But the magnitude of the discontinuity in Chinese market is 8 times as large as the developed market, okay. So what about more recent period? For example, after the anti-corruption campaign, right, which investigated a lot of officials and companies. So we look at 2013, which is the year after the anti-corruption campaign, and till 2018, that's the end of our sample period. You can see it's pretty much the same, okay? So which means that it does not seem to be sort of an improvement in the earnings management, okay? So I don't mean to blame anyone because China is on the path from a developing country to a developed country, okay? So we have to go through this process, but I think we need to speed up this process, okay? And I'm very glad that if you look at the news article several days ago, which says China published a set of rules on Friday. Basically, the regulator try to tighten scrutiny over stock listings, which is IPOs, public companies, underwriters, because they try to revive investor confidence, okay? Because Chinese stock index has dropped by a lot in the past several months, and finally stabilized in the last several weeks, okay? The goal is to make the market more safer, regulated, transparent, and also they try to crack down security fraud as well as accounting manipulation. I think this is definitely the right way to go. For example, in my other paper, we show that active government intervention can reduce information asymmetry and improve efficiency, okay? So in that paper, we look at the SEC, which is a US securities regulator. They have this common letter process where in mergers and acquisitions, also in regular annual report or quarterly report, whenever regulators detect an issue, they would ask the company to clarify, okay? They issue a common letter, ask the company to clarify about the question within a certain period of time, okay? So in that paper, we show that this common letter process successfully reduced the information asymmetry in mergers and acquisitions and increased the efficiency in the M&A market, okay? So about a second example of information asymmetry, I would like to share with you my current, my working paper, okay? It's joined with Danny Ching from Auburn University and Shang Cao from University of Maryland. So the title of the paper is The Game of Disclosing Other Events. So here we look at some voluntary disclosure, okay? So first, if you look at this Form 8K, okay, this is a mandatory disclosure. Basically, whenever there's a major event happen to a company, right? For example, there's mergers and acquisition, etc. They will need to disclose these events, okay, timely in this 8K. And within this 8K, there's a segment called 8.01, okay? This is for other events, for reporting other events. Interestingly, SEC issued a very detailed 24-page instruction or protocol on how to file 8Ks. Very detailed, okay? Very carefully regulated, but this 801 section, there's only a 64-word description, very brief, very flexible, okay? So we suspect that this could be subject to manipulation, okay, by fund managers. So we find some evidence that this seems to be the case. At least some firms seem to manipulate OE disclosures, other event disclosures. For example, if you look at this graph, right, this is you can think about this as the changes in stock prices, okay? This is actually a cumulative abnormal return. So 0 is the announcement day. If you look at first let's look at the blue line. This is the non-OE disclosure, which is other sections of 8Ks, okay? This is a carefully regulated, detailed instruction disclosure. As you can see, when there's a positive news, what will happen is stock price quickly go up and then stay the same level, or even there's a little drift going forward. And that is very ordinary, very normal phenomenon in the financial market, right? Stock prices adjust to the news, right? But then if you look at the other two lines, the black line and the red line, these are two different samples, but they are both based on other event disclosure, okay? So when there's a positive news, there's a big increase in stock price. Investors believe in this disclosure, but then they seem to find that, oh, in the following 3 months, gradually they find that these events are not so good, okay? Or there's no good event to begin with. So gradually stock price go back to the original level, okay, after 3 months, completely reversed, okay? So why do firms do this? As you can see, they can temporarily pump stock prices, right? When do they do this? We did some analysis. We find that they seem to engage in more of this when they need to push up stock prices in the short term. For example, when their executives plan to sell some of their shares or option grants, okay? Or when they want to use the stocks as the payment for some acquisitions, okay? And further evidence shows that somehow individual investors, this is actually not very surprising because individual investors are known to be less sophisticated than individual investors. We find that they seem to be more vulnerable to manipulation relative to institutional investors. Okay. So this, to summarize, we conclude in this paper that regulators need to pay a lot of attention on this kind of so-called voluntary disclosures, okay? Because on the one hand, there's only brief regulation. Second is they don't, if companies make voluntary disclosure, they are not subject to as much legal responsibility as voluntary disclosure, okay? Okay, now let's turn to biases, okay? So for the background information, classical economic and financial theories are based on the assumption of rationality. So what is rationality? Basically, people, our minds are like a supercomputer, okay? So we very quickly process all the information that we know, okay? And then very quickly arrive at a very optimal decision, okay? But the classical theories cannot completely explain many phenomena in financial markets. For example, the bubble, the stock market bubble I just mentioned, or the excessive trading. So in recent years, behavioral finance, which is a relatively new branch of financial research, incorporates psychology and human biases to better explain economic and financial phenomena. Okay, so these are already 6 Nobel Prize winners for their research on behavioral finance or behavioral economics. Okay. So part of my research is explains how personal preferences and behavioral biases affect their professional decisions in the corporate world or in the financial market. Okay. Unfortunately, as you can see, most of these papers, my name is always like the third. This is lucky, first. And then the second, last, this is also lucky. Okay, because for finance papers, the authors are in the order of alphabetical order of the author's last name. Okay, so my last name is Shu, so I always so I sometimes try to work with people like Solomon and Yang and Tian and Zhan. So basically, as you can see, we find that behavioral biases or personal preferences affect a large group of people, like individual investors, mutual fund managers, corporate managers, acquirer managers, etc. And they take different forms. For example, investor underreaction. Sometimes they underreact to patent value. Sometimes it happens in M&As. And sometimes their religious beliefs also affect their investment decisions. Okay, so let me give you one example, which is again a recent working paper about winner's curse in takeovers. Okay, so our paper looks at winner's curse. If winner's curse can potentially explain the poor performance by acquirers. Okay, so it is widely known that bidders perform poorly in mergers and acquisitions. Okay, for example, in 3 years, okay, 98 to 2001, this is a 4-year, U.S. bidders lost a total of $240 billion dollars, okay, in acquisitions. This is just public companies because they have to use the stock market reaction to measure the wealth consequence. Also, winners of takeover bid underperform losers by 24% in the 3 years after the mergers. Okay, so winners underperform losers. Okay. So the winner's curse may contribute to the poor bidder performance in M&A, but there's a debate about if this is true, okay? And there is some work showing evidence against this idea, okay? They argue that winner's curse does not contribute to the poor bidder performance. So exactly what is winner's curse? So interestingly, this is first discovered by some petroleum engineers. Okay, so basically in 1960s, people discovered many like oil fields around the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, so basically what happened is oil companies would bid for the drilling rights on the oil fields. Okay, so the idea is they don't know the value of the oil field, so they have to use a model to estimate the value of the oil field and make their bidding. And very often, once they win the bid, they find that, oh, I paid too much. Okay, the actual value of the oil field is much lower than how much I pay. Okay, so the oil companies are very curious, and they asked the 3 petroleum engineers, Kaplan, Clapp, and Campbell. This is a highly cited economic paper, okay, the 3 authors, written by 3 engineers. So the companies initially thought maybe their model is wrong, okay? They overestimate somehow the value of the oil field. So these 3 engineers, instead, after some investigation, they published an economics paper in 1971 in actually Oil Journal, okay? Claiming that this is a result of cognitive bias. Okay, their model is correct, but their bidding strategy is wrong. Okay, so let me show you exactly what happened. For example, if there are 3 oil fields, right? A, B, and C, each is worth $10 million. Okay, so there are 3 bidders: me, my wife Ashley, and my son Tony. Okay. And then we try to make the bid, right? We don't know the exact value, but we have our models, okay? So, for example, for me, for the first oil field, my estimation is that it's worth 12 million, okay? Second is 10 million, the third is 8 million. So I make the bid, for example, just according to the estimated value, right? As you can see, my model is correct because on average, I'm right. Sometimes I overestimate, sometimes I underestimate, right? But on average, it's like 10 million, okay? So my wife Ashley also makes the bid. His model is also correct. Tony also makes the bid. You know, his model is also correct. And then who win the bid? Okay, I win the first, my wife win the second, and Tony win the third. Okay, so all of us lose, even though our model is completely correct. Okay, so what happened? Because why is this a bias? Because you do not consider the fact that you win because you pay too much. Okay, if you bid a rational price or a reasonable price, you will not win. Okay, you win when you bid too much. Okay, so this is a sort of a conditional probability. They fail to take into account this conditional probability. Okay, what about there's only one bidder? There's only a single bidder. Say a target company is worth between $0 and $10 million. Let's assume a uniform distribution, which means the value sort of evenly distributed, right? Between 0 and 10 million. And then only the target firm knows the accurate value, and the acquirer firm only knows the distribution, right? That's it. After the merger, the acquirer lets us sweeten the deal. The acquirer can create synergy, okay, which is some new value that is equal to 50% of target firm's value, okay? In other words, if the target firm's value is 10 million, I acquire the firm, I can create another 5 million new value, okay? This is try to give you some motivation to make the bid, okay? Which is also true in M&A, okay? Because the main driver of M&A is the new value creation, all right? So of course, if the target firm accepts the bid, then the takeover will happen. Otherwise, the takeover will not happen, okay? So let's look at what happened, right? So this is this distribution from 0 to 10, right? So what about we bid 5 million, okay? Which seems to be fair, right? Uniform distribution between 0 and 10, the average is 5, right? So let's bid 5. We bid 5. And then the thought is we pay 5 million, we get a farm, chances are the average value is 5. We can create 50% synergy, so the total value would be 7.5, right? 5 plus 2.5 synergy, okay? Which is higher than the payment. So that's a good deal. So I bid 5. Okay, but this will not happen because if your bidding is 5, if the firm value is above 5, the target will not accept your offer. Okay, so the deal will not go through. Only in this case, the firm value less than 5 million, the offer will go through. Okay, see. Now you see the same logic, right? You win only when you offer too much, okay? And the average is no longer 5, it's 2.5, okay? Between 0 and 5. So the average 2.5, after 50% synergy, the total value would be 3.75, okay? Which is 2.5 times 1.5, which is original value plus 50% synergy, which is lower than the payment of 5. So again, the lesson is exactly the same. We win because we pay too much, okay? So this is the lesson, and what should we do? Okay, like in the previous case, the three of us should consider this conditional probability and lower our bid. Okay, lower our bid. For example, we bid only a certain percentage of our estimated value. If we cannot cooperate, I should, by myself, lower my bid, okay? In this case, the chance of winning is lower, but at least I don't lose, okay? I can overcome this winner's curse issue, okay? So this is a bias, and the main prediction is, because of this uncertainty, okay? The higher the uncertainty, you should be more careful and you should be more conservative, okay? Because the higher the uncertainty, the more likely this winner's curse will happen, okay? In other words, if you think about a dollar bill, right? If this is a dollar bill of, say, $100, if you auction for a $100 bill, there will be no winner's curse because we know the exact value, okay? So in our paper, 2024 paper, we submitted to a top journal last night. My co-author submitted it, okay? So we test the winner's curves in takeovers using a unique measure of target value uncertainty, okay? So the difficulty in testing this hypothesis, which is higher uncertainty leads to more winner's curves, the challenge is to measure target value uncertainty. Okay, so we use a unique approach. We look at the takeover deals with multiple investment banks, basically investment banks. Each of them will give their advice on the valuation of the target company. Okay, so we look at the disagreement of the valuation given by investment banks, and we use it as a measure of target value disagreement or target value uncertainty. And the prediction of winner's curse is that the higher the disagreement, the more severe this winner's curse problem, okay? Indeed, we find that when disagreement is high, bidders on average pay too much, and these people who pay too much, they have worse merger performance. They also create lower new values, which means those who win the bid are not the ones that can create the highest value, but the ones that offer the highest price, okay? So this is a resource allocation, and we find that this winner's curse is more pronounced among overconfident CEOs. Okay, so seems that a winner's curse is an important manifestation of CEO overconfidence. Okay, so the result supports the existence of the winner's curse. Okay. So now, after some serious finance-related topic, we can relax a little bit. So let me share with you some important moments in my life, okay? I will share 3 important moments. The first moment is, why did I study finance, okay? So basically, this is my high school, middle school and high school, Wuhan Foreign Language School. And this is my university, Zhongnan University of Economics and Law, okay? So this is a great middle school and high school, and I still remember in the graduation year, most of my classmates were recommended to universities without the college entrance exam, okay? But most of them went to foreign language universities, like Beijing Foreign Language University, Shanghai Foreign Language University, or English department of the, for example, Peking University English department, Wuhan University English department. And I didn't want to study English. The main reason is somehow I thought I want to use English to study something else rather than study English itself. So I waited, and finally a university came up. It's a local university in Wuhan. And they say, oh, we can admit you without college entrance exam. And you can not randomly, you can pick a major, okay, that you want. Not randomly. It's not like by a lottery, okay? So I was a high school kid, and my parents are both engineers. So we have no idea of those majors. For example, economics, finance, marketing, computer science, and statistics, etc. So if you can only ask one question, what question would you ask? So the question that I asked the director of admission of that university. I said, which major has the highest entrance grade or admission grade? Okay. And then the director said, oh, international finance. Okay. And then I very quickly picked international finance. Okay. Seems to be in retrospect, seems to be a right decision. And that's very randomly how I chose to study finance in college. And basically my life is pretty much a random process, okay? Randomly I joined a bank, and then randomly I went to US, and randomly I pursued a PhD study, and randomly becoming a professor is not random, because after PhD you are supposed to be a professor, okay? And so I think, yeah, if you ask me life is random or predetermined, my answer is, I think it's random, okay? And then the second important moment is moving from US to CUHK Shenzhen. So after being a professor at University of Georgia for 13 years, I returned to Asia and joined CUHK Shenzhen in 2019, okay? So this is my first year, okay? And I never thought I would do so much administrative work, okay? So in the first year, they say, oh, there are not many senior people, so you have to take up some responsibility. So I became the director of master finance program, full-time and part-time, right? The program manager, Ye, is here, right? So basically, we worked together from the very beginning since I joined the CUHK, okay? I successfully persuaded her to join CUHK as well, okay? Okay, then they also made me a PhD director of finance, okay? And then I was also the finance recruiting committee chair. So there was a period of time in the morning, I interviewed master program candidate applicants. And in the afternoon, I interviewed the PhD program applicants. And in the evening and night, I had Zoom interview with the professor, you know, the job market candidates. So that's an interesting period of time. And then in the second year, they asked me to be the associate dean, which is the deputy director of SFI. And so I was in charge of all the TPG programs. There are 6 of them, full-time, and 3 of them part-time. And also, I was also in charge of internal affairs, such as human resource finance office, administrative office, IT office, within a business school, okay? And then this is the second and third year. And the last year, they asked me to be the associate vice president of administration. So I was in charge of supervising finance office, EMO. EMO in Shenzhen actually is very different from EMO in CUHK. So the function of EMO here is carried by a different office called BFMO, okay, over there in Shenzhen. So EMO is mainly about equipment, okay? Managing equipment, assets, furniture, and computers, all kind of equipment. And then ITSO, of course, is about IT, and ASO, Administrative Service Office, which is responsible for property management, all the shops, canteen, bus, you know, anything you can plan, so anything you can think about. And then I'm also in charge of a coordination with the government for funding, because I think CUHK Shenzhen, the big chunk of funding is from the government. Also, we're building a medical school and a music school campus. So I also need to coordinate the thing, okay? So I very much appreciate the help and guidance from President Yang Shengxu, and also my direct boss, Casey Yuan. He's the VP of administration. He's also from CUHK. Yeah, so thanks to them, I learned a lot from this administrative work, okay? And it's also a blessing because my research is still going on. And the finance department asked me to be the finance area seminar coordinator. So I accepted this invitation because I try to remind myself constantly that I'm still a professor. So I was also, besides all my duties over here, I was still coordinating the seminar series of the finance department. And then the third important moment, of course, is the last September from CUHK Shenzhen to CUHK. It's a big transition to me, and it's been a very good period of time so far. First, I really appreciate the strong support from the Fund family, for the馮景禧Memorial Professorship. This is not only a recognition, but also a responsibility. Also appreciate Mr. Tony Feng and all our advisors and also lots of professionals, CUHK friends' contribution. And then we also receive a strong support from the university because we are part of CUHK family. So our achievement would not be feasible without the shining brand and also the rising reputation of CUHK. Also, I want to thank our FBA colleagues, and many of you are also here, especially Ling for his very useful, invaluable guidance. During the last recruiting season, I sometimes reach out to him very late in the night, almost midnight, discussing making some offers because we need to compete for some strong candidate and was very urgent. And luckily, he always responded, and he never yelled at me. Okay. And then I want to thank my fellow faculty members. Most of you are here for a very, very collegial environment. I feel very, very good in the finance department. I think we're doing a great job. I especially thank Professor Kellogg Chen for a very smooth transition and also your advice. So our department is currently already a leading department in Asia. So according to the UT Dallas Business School ranking, that's a very prestigious ranking. Our finance department is ranked 36 among all the departments in the world, and number 2 in Asia. Okay, I believe we'll continue this upward trend and will become one of the prominent finance department in the world. Okay, and then finally, let me thank our supporting staff. You are so capable. You are so capable. You know a lot of about all these complicated regulations, and also you know how to make all kind of justifications that I don't know how to do. Okay. And especially, I thank you for teaching me some Cantonese. Okay. 多謝你哋。而家我都識講少少廣東話。Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I will try my best to serve, to return to you, and to serve the department, to serve my colleagues, to serve the college, the faculty, and also the CUHK family. Okay. So finally, thank you notes. To conclude my speech, I want to express my deep gratitude first, let me express my deepest gratitude to the Feng family. As I just mentioned, the馮景禧professorship is not just an honor, but also a responsibility and also the testament to the legacy of Mr. Feng and the Feng family, whose entrepreneurial spirit and the dedication into innovation continue to inspire us all. So in the early time of doing business, Mr. Feng was very, very creative. And we also need to be very creative in building our university and also in our research work. Okay. The trust and the confidence that the university and the business school have placed in me are both humbling and invigorating. This esteemed professorship, the馮景禧Memorial Professor, carries with it the responsibility to uphold the values of academic rigor, intellectual curiosity, and the pursuit of knowledge that are the cornerstones of CUHK's mission. I'm committed to fostering an environment where these ideals can flourish and to contribute to CUHK's reputation as a beacon of learning and research excellence. So as we embark on this journey together, I'm energized by the opportunity to collaborate with our colleagues, with our students, and also the broader CUHK community to advance the frontiers of our understanding in business and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Shu, for your inspiring lecture. Please be seated. May I now invite the Vice Chancellor and Dean of Business Administration to return to the stage, please. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the inaugural lecture. Please rise as the official procession exits the hall.